Welcome, everyone. Real estate investing made easy. We got the questions continuing from the last time that we went live, and we talked about there were being 50 questions. This is going to be a continuation of that. And they're just really some of the most common questions, and then some that you probably haven't even thought to ask, but really should, especially if you're getting started in real estate investing. And even if you've been doing this for a while, things to consider and remember, because it's definitely a business that changes in some respects. So some of those answers will change, and you definitely want to be abreast of the details of that. And one of them in particular, just starting right off, is specifically about staying up to date on market conditions and changes in the real estate regulations. So there's really two different questions in that, and I'll jump right in and answer it. How I stay up to date in terms of market conditions. I do subscribe to other investors in the markets that I invest to stay up to date, as opposed to doing this research myself. Of course, they're citing their sources, which is really important because I will investigate that. And that is because real estate, as much as we like to pay attention to the national trends, it is local. Really, the effects of real estate are local. So I will, for example, in San Diego, and continue to pour into what is called the Real Report. The Real Report is by an investor called Brian Daly. That's his name, in Southern California. And he's just got really concise, to the point information. So if you don't know Brian Daly, if you haven't heard of the Real Report and you invest in San Diego, check that out because it's really concise info. That being said, other markets I've invested in, the same thing applies across the country in about 30 different markets. Does that mean that I'm looking at 30 different emails and 30 different reports every single week? No, I'm not. In fact, when it comes to understanding the market condition itself, why do I want to know that? I want to know that because I want to understand if a property that I'm looking to purchase is a good investment. So I'm really going to still focus on my analysis from property to property. It's not something that I'm continuing to worry about, because it's really more about the property itself, especially considering that, yeah, you've all heard it. The market is going down, it's softening. But how does that change anything that we do? Well, really only in one way. We're going to adjust our offer accordingly. So your analysis should obviously be consistent with that. As far as the regulations are concerned, there's a lot of that still included in those reports. But of course, your zoning commissions, your planning commissions, when you're going to those board meetings, or if you're looking at your county website to see when those are, or even the notes, because the notes are public as well. I'll take San Diego as an example too for this. If you were to go to the county website, you can actually look at the meetings in the greater county area for, things that are happening, developments that are going up, and other news that's related to the market, real estate and population increase, decrease, businesses and stuff. That's important for us as real estate investors, but it's not the end all be all. So if you're just getting started and you're like, man, that sounds like something that is a lot of work to do, to put that on my plate, in addition to learning how to wholesale or rehab properties and then all these creative things, don't even worry about it. Just leverage an expert in your area, whether they're a realtor or whether they're a real estate investor. Brian Daly in San Diego, as an example, he's a real estate investor. And as I mentioned, I tune into his, even though I've been doing this since 2009. So it's not like I'm a junior or a JV when it comes to real estate investing. It's just that the leveraging of somebody else's expertise in that area. He's really good at putting reports together. And this isn't necessarily a promo for Brian Daly, although you should definitely check him out. This is more just somebody in your market is going to be like that. Maybe it's you. Maybe you're the one who wants to go to, and kind of to flesh out that answer more, where if you're not looking at a publication, realtor.com is a good spot to see market trends. And as much as people say that valuations on Zillow are really not that great, I can tell you that what's really good is big data market trends. And by big data, I mean your local market, whatever market you're investing in. If you, for instance, just want to understand, as an example, the market and what it's doing in Buffalo, New York, what I would recommend you do is type in Buffalo, New York in Google, right? And I'm typing that right now. I'll share my screen in a second. And then you go to, you type in market report Zillow. So once you do that, right here on the screen, you can see Buffalo, New York home prices and market values. And that's the easiest, quickest way to get to that. And you can see that here in Buffalo, New York, the average price for a property is going to be the 209,000. It's gone up 6.4% in the last year. And then there's more details. It shows you the outline of where exactly Buffalo is and more demographics for the sale of inventory, the median home price. And this is where you can really see where that big data comes into play. It's max, so it's going back to 2016. And that's the way that I like to just quickly take a snapshot, especially when we have an investor who brings us a deal, say it's from YouTube, because you can do that too. And they say, hey, I've got this opportunity. I think it's a good deal. We investigate it. We look at it. Perhaps it's for buy and hold purposes. We want to know what that market's doing. If we've never invested in that market before, we want to do some quick cursory market research. And that is exactly how we'll do that research if we didn't have a publication that somebody was sending us on a weekly basis to tell us what's the inventory look like, where are the mortgage rates headed, how is that impacting the community, and of course population is very important, because the more people that are moving to the area in which you're investing, especially in a buy and hold capacity, the more likely, or at least as one indicator, the more likely that's going to be a good place to invest, right? There are more factors, but of course that's an important factor. So good question. The other question I have is, what strategies do you employ to quickly find motivated sellers in the market? I love this question, and it is going to be dependent upon your budget. I can tell you what I do and what we do. We do a lot of cold calling. We do a lot of SMS marketing. And recently we've been leveraging AI to do this. And AI cold calling also, yes, for sure. We actually just finished the whole development of an AI platform that helps marketing and lead management. It's not a sales pitch for that, just sharing with you what I'm doing. And it's a pretty robust system. We didn't create the AI for this, but we leverage other people's, and via API. This is just a way to help manage those leads and then follow up, right? So to also market to them as well. So doing that, whether it's AI cold calling that you're doing or whether it's cold calling, I'd recommend that. And then, of course, you can get on the phone with somebody quickly by just dialing their number. I would not suggest the route of picking up the phone or using a Google Voice number to dial one by one by one. If that's all you can do, remember I said it depends on your budget, then do it. Doing that is better than doing nothing at all. So just consider that. In addition to that, I would say the SMS platforms that I've been using to market for, text message marketing in bulk. And I don't want to say mass, because I'm not mass blasting text messages, right? That's going to be against A2P 10DLC regulations. There's going to be spam and flagged numbers that we're using, and it's just going to decrease the effectiveness of those marketing channels. Specifically, we're talking about phone and SMS. In this example, it's SMS. So what I would do is check out Smarter Contact. If you've been around on this channel for a while, you know that we've really promoted launch control. I'm not saying they're the worst of the worst. The reason why we transitioned to Smarter Contact is because, we have more of a transparent path before us working with Smarter Contact rather than launch control. And, not to discuss the past misdemeanors from our perspective of launch control, that is just to say that there were a lot of things that the rug was pulled out from underneath us. We're not the only ones who've experienced this. And it had been 5 years running that we had experienced these changes as people who were actively promoting them as an affiliate, sure, but the reason was because we believed in the product and we believed in the service, we believed in the customer support. And that's not to say that we don't, we just can't have the non-communication. You can't have a relationship with anybody if you don't communicate. So one thing that we really like about Smarter Contact is, I'm in a Slack channel with the owners and, the founders of the company. And it's not like what I say goes or anything like that. It's just that they're at least going to say, hey, there's this thing coming and it's going to affect your campaigns. It's going to affect the campaigns of the people that you're helping, because we do help in so many ways as far as management of marketing and stuff like that with people who are our clients and within our mastermind. So that said, it makes it a lot easier to say yes, go with them. So if that's important to you, if you don't care whether or not, your entire process changes halfway through when you've got some momentum built up, then sure, go with launch control, because they're probably going to change something and not tell you until they've changed it. But it's an effective strategy for marketing to generate leads. And yes, you could do it quickly. So as far as strategies to employ to quickly find motivated seller leads, there is one other strategy that I can recommend for you. And that is by, of course, going with the I'm just totally blanking on that. It is going with the PPC, sorry, PPL, pay per lead, PPC. It's really more like pay per lead, and that is with LeadZolo. So we've had good experience with that. It's a little bit more cost effective than trying to start your marketing campaign from the ground up, but cold calling, PPL, right, pay per lead, and SMS marketing are the three ways. The cheapest option of that is probably PPL, because you can budget in terms of like whatever your monthly budget is. If you say, I want $500 a month worth of leads, you can sign up with LeadZolo. I mean, yeah, I'll put links in the description if you guys want, and their affiliate. But if you don't use it, don't care. Just get it done, because you got to take action to have this actually work for you. So those are the marketing strategies. Next question is, how do you handle potential competition from other wholesalers in the same area? Man, I love this question, because the answer is always going to be the same. Just kick their I'm kidding. Now, regard your competition as one of your biggest assets, because especially if you're wholesaling, even if there are other wholesalers, your goal for wholesaling, I would encourage you to think about this. If you're just a wholesaler, it shouldn't be to continually only wholesale forever. Why is that? Because what you're going to find, especially from my perspective, having been doing this for such a long time, it's what have you done for me lately? Did you sign up for real estate investing? Did you invest time or maybe perhaps even money in an educational platform to be a slave to your business that you created? If you did, then burn the bridges with everybody that you know who's a competitor as a wholesaler. If that's what you're into, I wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend regarding them as your biggest asset, because once you figure out that this, what have you done for me lately, big chunks of cash doesn't really do it for you, because maybe you started when you were younger and now you met somebody and yeah, you want to have kids and have a family, then you're going to want to spend more time outside of your business than in it and on the grind, working 40, 50, 60 hours a week and working every single weekend. So regard even wholesalers in your area to joint venture. Maybe you're really good at closing deals, but you're not good at dispoing deals. Align yourself with another wholesaler in your area to do, the heavy lifting on what they're not good at, and lean into your strengths. It's very much like what we do on this channel too. Like some of you found us for the first time, and then you said, hey, I got this deal I can't close. And then you hit us up and we worked together and we closed a deal with you, or we helped dispo it. So we do that. And I would recommend, it's not just with us, but with people in your local market, do the same thing. So you can go to RIAs, you can go to and join Facebook groups and stuff, and let people know that you're excited to joint venture with them, even other wholesalers. And you're going to find out really quickly that there are some wholesalers who aren't amicable. Don't be that wholesaler. Be the wholesaler that is, not so trusting that you're going to get screwed over. We use some discernment. But when it comes to direct communication with the seller, if you meet another wholesaler that's really, really good at closing deals, like my business partner, Chris, then you're going to want to let them negotiate the price. You're going to want to let them close the deal. As long as you have your ducks in a row, legally speaking, joint venture agreements are just as good with wholesaling as they are with the, we're going to go ahead and joint venture with a rehab. So all that said, that's my advice to you in terms of how to handle potential competition from other wholesalers in the area. If you're acting with integrity, that's a system that works. And in my opinion, it's just like capitalism. Capitalism works, democracy works when the people have some sort of moral standard where they actually give a crap about their humans, their fellow humans. The golden rule of do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And the same thing applies in the world of wholesaling. If you're not really acting within integrity, you're going to get blacklisted from rehabbers and not be able to sell your deal. You're going to get blacklisted from just building more relationships with other wholesalers, because the word spreads fast. And that is just to say that as much as from the outside looking in, it may look like the business of real estate investing is really, really big and there's a lot of people involved. It is a small, small world. We have people tuning in from all over the world on this channel, right? And people who are tuning in across the United States. And it's just me in front of a camera here in the studio, right? So we will be connected, and I will not trash talk people, but I will at some point, if you have a question directed about this particular person, put it nicely, maybe consider working with somebody else, right? So we're not necessarily going to like dox anyone, but you want to make sure that you protect yourself. And that's where my interest lies, in helping people make real estate investing easy, hence the name. And that doesn't work when you align yourself with somebody who's just going to take advantage of you. So use discernment, but you can definitely regard your competition as one of your biggest assets. The next question is, what key factors do you consider when evaluating the potential profitability of a wholesale opportunity? First and foremost, you have to understand, does your buyer pool necessitate, right, getting this property under contract at a specific percentage of ARV? Or basically, to put it another way, will this deal actually sell to anybody on my buyer's list? So that's the first thing. If this is a market like San Diego and I got a deal that's 85% of ARV, I know it's going to sell. That's not the same for a market like South Florida. You're going to be buying those deals at 67% of ARV, 65% of ARV. Heck, sometimes they're 50 something percent of ARV. Price points are different, markets are different. So first understand, if you're just wholesaling, what is that spread, right, in terms of the ARV? And this kind of speaks to the Mayo formula, the maximum allowable offer. Google it. There's obviously, formulas that are different than the Mayo formula, but that's the most common. You say 70% of the ARV is your Mayo formula, but it's not always true. You're going to really undercut your offers, and you're going to lose deals in a market like San Diego, for example, if you're using the Mayo formula at 70%, because that's 70% of the ARV, minus the repairs and all that. You're going to offer them dirt, chump change. So we've had to come up, from, I don't know, we were doing it at like 80. And to our surprise, we're like, actually, we're still not competitive with our offers. So we had to come up to a higher number, and it's a percentage of ARV, 85, to be able to wholesale deals there. Still profitable, still makes sense, still a win-win for the seller, us, and the buyer, and hopefully eventually if interest rates go down, the end buyer, who's the residential retail buyer. But all that said, that's one of the first key factors. Now, you assume that there are more than one with the question, what are the key factors that you consider when evaluating a potential deal? We talked about this last week. That's one of the biggest factors, but of course, it's not the most important for your bottom line and your bottom line. The most important factor is this. It's really twofold. What is the condition of the market currently? And then what is the condition of the property? Because those are the two things that are really going to dictate whether or not that deal is going to be profitable based off the seller's expectation of value, which technically could be a third one. But if you can create the scenario where it makes sense and you can support your data, your math, and you can stand by your numbers based off of the comps in the area, which is the market condition, maybe even a little bit of the projection of where the market's going, then if your seller's expectation of value aligns with that, then perfect. You have a good deal, and you can sell it to a buyer because that's just the numbers flesh out. So those are a few things that I would absolutely recommend. If you want a little bit more context to that, let me know in the comment section, and I'd be happy to update you, because I guess YouTube has this feature now that you can reply via video to a comment, which I'm going to start doing. Because there's just too much to type in some instances. But that's what this time is for, to give you guys feedback and to answer your questions that we've got over the last week. So that's what we're going to do. And moving on to the next one. Are there any specific red flags or warning signs you watch for when assessing a potential wholesale deal? That's a really interesting question. Red flags or warning signs you watch for when assessing a potential wholesale deal. Let's just remove the word wholesale deal. It's what red flags are there that you have seen before when it comes to purchasing a property, whether I'm going to rehab it or whether we're going to wholesale it. The red flags, I think the first thing that kind of got my spidey senses tingling was a reality where I'm having a conversation with somebody who says they're the seller, but they're not the seller. Okay, that's kind of a red flag there, where this might be a scam, because I don't know if all of you have heard of the whole scams that have to do with title scams, where they say that they're the owner of the property. They might even have some sort of documentation, and it's really just a scam for them to sell the property they don't really have the rights to and then take the cash. So that's something that I try and be aware of. And what would indicate that? Just communication, right? The way in which you're communicating. Are they being frank with you? Do they have a Facebook profile? I'm not saying look up every single seller you're having a conversation with on Facebook or social media or LinkedIn or whatever. But if you get a sense that maybe this person isn't legit, do it and then discover whether or not they are. Not only that, but obviously tax records are going to show you who owns the property. But just know it's public record, so they have access to those same documents as well. All they have to do is sign up for Property Radar, which is one that we use, or they're aligned with a realtor. They have access in their local area, which of course we can get CRS tax data in San Diego as a licensed realtor, but you can also use those other platforms. So I can certainly speak to that more if you want a little more clarity on that, but those are kind of the things that immediately stand out. Next question is, are there any specific warning signs or red flags for unexpected challenges or setbacks in wholesaling? So let me rephrase the question as far as that goes. I want to speak to how I would handle challenges or setbacks in the wholesaling process, but we have to understand what those challenges or setbacks are when you're looking to wholesale properties. It goes from getting the data all the way to the closing process. The biggest challenge to overcome is with where your marketing dollars are going to go. Is it marketing to a list that wasn't curated properly? Because if that's the case, then the biggest challenge there is you're wasting time and money, no matter how awesome your message is. And we've talked about this before. There's even a video that I went into more depth talking about, if you're managing and curating data even at a high level and you miss this one thing, you're likely spending way more money than you need to. And you're asking the question, why am I not getting enough leads? So managing your data, understanding how to curate lists that resemble motivation to sell their property. Tired landlord lists are really beneficial, and that's more of the long haul. And about 3 weeks ago, we did an entire, this is how you pull data. And it was with a thumbnail that says, where are you going to be in 2025 of January, right? It's a brand new year. Start the success habits. It begins with the data. So we talked about exactly what you should be doing from, of course, my opinion, but my opinion means something to the people that I coach. So all that said, that's where I would start, understanding that if you're not getting the responses that you thought, it could be the data, and then it could be the actual messaging secondarily. And at the end of the day, it could be the source of where you're getting the data, even before we talk about, oh, it's the data because maybe you didn't do anything wrong. Maybe it was just the source. Here's an example. Not to necessarily say that PropStream is a terrible platform to use when it comes to curating data. Just to say that as far as pre-foreclosure data, and this has been split tested across the entire country in dozens and dozens of instances, and that is their pre-foreclosure data is older. So if somebody's in pre-foreclosure, what's going to happen? They get an NOD in some states, depending on what type of foreclosure process they have, whether it's judicial or non-judicial. There's a timeline that's coming very soon for them potentially to lose their property if they haven't brought that the arrears up and then settled that, and then they have a release of the foreclosure. So if you have old data that you're marketing to pre-foreclosures, well, what is going to happen is you're going to get to them either after it's already sold at auction or it's already been solved. Now, if it's already been solved, awesome, good, because we don't want to see anybody go into foreclosure. Maybe, that's what you believe too, which is awesome. Well, at the end of the day, if you have more fresh data, and you can find it from another provider for that niche list, then you want to go with that. And I actually just had a conversation last night with one of our mastermind students, Tony. He had said, hey, I don't like the data that I'm getting from this provider for pre-foreclosures. What do you recommend? And I pulled a list for him. Not that I'm going to pull a list for you guys. I'm really busy, but go here and do this to Property Radar. They have really exceptional data and lists. So pre-foreclosures, they're really, really current and really accurate. As far as the most accurate spot to pull lists like that, it's not even those third-party service providers that will give you the data. It's your county. So if you're able to physically go into your county recorder's office and get that data, or if it's available online, that's going to be the best place with the most recent data for pre-foreclosures. But that's something to consider when we talk about, what warning signs to watch out for when you're assessing a potential wholesale deal. Oh, I'm sorry. It wasn't that unexpected challenges or setbacks. You will run into a challenge like that at some point, no matter how good you are at, pulling lists, marketing to those lists, and then nurturing those potential leads that are still prospects to really dig down into how motivated they are. Is this a lead, right? So understand that we have a lot of buzz out there about like, oh man, you could be targeting 10,000 leads a month. Well, none of those are leads. That's insane. They're prospects. They're completely cold prospects. A lead is something that you can have a big setback with if you don't define it properly, right? Because then you need to manage your expectations. Is this person really a lead? So I would define it this way, and I'd recommend you do it the same thing. Somebody who's actually expressed a genuine interest in selling their property now or in the near future, period. And obviously who is looking to entertain an offer, right? And that said, you might also say, well, I also need them to take a discounted offer. That's not true for us. We don't need them to take a discounted offer. We need them to take an offer that is consistent with the current condition of the property, the current condition of the market, and understand that we're an investment company looking to make a bit of a spread on this. And with those expectations set, you should be able, at least for us, we're able to say, this is our cash offer. If it makes sense for you, like, let's go. If not, we can get creative, whether it is a novation or whether it's some sort of other creative deal, which, are some of the things that we teach here on this channel. So hopefully that answered your question as far as the challenges and the setbacks in the wholesale process. But of course, there are more, and that has to do with making sure that the buyer that you have is vetted. And we've talked about this a lot on this channel. Do not work with people who are going to continue to drag this transaction through the mud, because you're going to not be able to do right by the seller. If you are wholesaling a property, consider as though you were the one who was actually buying that property, because this is the biggest asset they've ever owned. This is something that they are not playing around with, likely. For the most part, that's the case, especially owner occupied, right? And maybe it was their first house and they're ready to get up to the next one because they just popped out 30 kids, which is a lot. I get it. But as far as extreme examples go, we've worked with people like that before that drug out the process, and it really looked bad on us. And we don't want not just to look bad, but we don't want to put the seller in a position where they trusted us and then we drop the ball, because a lot of people in the wholesaling world will do that. Can you provide guidance on setting realistic goals for a real estate wholesaling business? Yeah, I absolutely can. Here's the deal. When you figure out what your goal is going to be and it's something that is achievable, take the SMART goals, right? That's specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. Is it something that you said, hey, I want to make $1 million in real estate wholesaling my first year? Well, if you're used to making, I don't know, $700,000 a year, that's probably reasonable. Yeah, because you have the marketing budget to, actually make that happen. But if you're only used to making what the average is, 56 to 60 grand a year, and you say, I want to make $1 million in real estate wholesaling the first year, you're probably going to set yourself up for just feeling like a total failure, even if you're not, even if you're doing everything right. So setting realistic goals is critical when it comes to real estate wholesaling. I'll tell you what, on average, I've seen for coaching at this point, thousands of people. The goals that are set, that are realistic, that's one thing that really helps people achieve them. But number two, it's taking action on the things that you learn as soon as you learn them. and understanding that it might take from the onset of starting your business 3 months to get a deal. 3 months. I've seen it happen in a week. I've seen it happen in 2 weeks. We all have heard these stories, and a lot of people who are gurus get on, your Instagram feed and say like, I'm going to teach you how to do wholesaling with no money, no credit, no experience, and you're going to get a deal within the first week and you're going to make $100,000. Just run away from those people. They're ridiculous. It's absolutely crazy. Do not have those expectations. And if it happens sooner, and if you far exceed that goal, the other side to that is that goal was not aggressive enough. So you got to get out there, set higher goals, and then do more of what works. And that's, of course, what we're trying to teach on this channel. So stay tuned. And if you have the question, well, what works? Ask it. I'll answer it. How do you manage your time and prioritize tasks to maximize efficiency in your wholesaling business? Man, this is another question that I absolutely love. Thank you so much for asking it. I use calendars. I use Google Calendars. I time block all of my time. I time block this. This is just before this, I had a mastermind office hours where we were talking about a whole bunch of other things and, with our students and stuff. But I had to end it when I had to end it. You just be respectful of your own calendar once you set it. So that's really the second thing. Set the calendar, time block, and then be respectful of what's on your calendar and what's on other people's calendar. The first step to that, and let me just say this, if this is you, tell me it's you, because I know that I cannot possibly be alone. I only know a few people who have admitted to this, but this is a failure spot that you want to avoid, and you may be experiencing it and you may be in denial, and it's this. You put an appointment on the calendar and it's for 25 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it is. And then 45 minutes later, you're still in that meeting. What is the point of putting a 30-minute meeting? Just schedule a 45-minute meeting. If you cannot, as a leader of your company, be concise with the timing, don't worry, you're not alone. Just be sure to be successful at this, the first thing you need to do is be respectful of somebody else's time rather than your own first. And then it's going to help you respect your own time more. Don't get to the point where you've disrespected so many people's times that are employees of yours or that really are people that you're meeting with to where they just don't even really want to meet with you, right? Because it takes too long. So that's one way to really prioritize tasks and maximize efficiency in your wholesaling business or any business that you have, actually. So good question. I get into more depth about that if you have follow-ups to it, but let me know. The next question is, how do you build and maintain credibility in the real estate wholesaling industry? Well, I guess it depends on to whom you're looking to seem credible. Is it the seller or is it the buyer or are the escrow companies or whoever you're talking with and enrolling in your business, private money lenders? It's be legit, I guess, is the easiest way to describe it. What the heck do I mean by that? Well, that is, be a person of your word, right? Is there a specific legal requirement or license necessary for real estate wholesalers in your area? There are a couple places in the States that, yes, you need to be a licensed realtor to transact more than, I think it's one actually. If on your second one in Illinois, you better be a licensed realtor. Other than that, you have to check with your local laws that govern that. And I think Bigger Pockets is a really good place to get more specific on that. If you want to create an account, post a thread on there and say, hey, I live in X state and city, and I want to make sure I don't need a license to wholesale, then do that. Because while we do target nationally over, blanket 10 states in our marketing, and Illinois is one of them, we're licensed realtors, so we don't really have to worry about that. Right. So anyway, next question, how do you handle the paperwork and administrative aspects of a wholesale transaction? Wow, transaction coordinators, man. You don't need to know all this stuff. Now, at the end of the day, if you're new, you're going to learn from people that you're working with, and you should, right? The very first transaction that I ever did, I was in a unique position because I was working for a real estate education company, and I had already known a lot of this stuff because I had poured into my education for a long time. I probably took too long before I took action to actually start. But for the things that I didn't know, I just called up the people, like the owner of, what is the name of the title company? I can't remember it, but the first title company I ever used and transacted business with, I said, hey, I don't know how to do, I think it had to do with a power of attorney that I needed. And I said, can you walk me through the process? And they did, right? And not only that, but they had their own coordination for the the paperwork, and I didn't really have to worry much about that. You probably won't either. Transaction coordinators are also for hire. So you can go into groups and say, hey, who's really good TC? You can ask your network as you continue to build your buyers list and network with other investors, like, who do you use for transaction coordination? And then get the name, call them up and let them know. Like Tracy is somebody who, we interviewed to be a transaction coordinator for us because she is, you probably don't know who Tracy is. And I don't know if she wants me to send business her way. So I'm not going to say anything else about that, but her name is Tracy. And we just didn't have the volume at that time, right? And then at a certain point, I think we had too much volume to bring her on. We do have now a in-house transaction coordinator. So that is something that is a really good question, but in the beginning, don't even worry about it. Just get the deal under contract, open escrow with an escrow company, title company, or attorney, whatever handles it in your state. Fund the earnest money deposit. Make sure you have your buyer lined up and close the transaction and get paid, and then do the money dance on the way to the bank. Okay. So that's all you really need to worry about. Ask a lot of questions to the people involved in the transactions, not the sellers, by the way. Okay, just so you know, mostly your title companies, escrow companies, or attorneys if you close with attorneys in your state. I'm trying to get through all of these. There's so many questions, guys. Thank you so much. Okay. Can you discuss the importance of building a strong online presence for your wholesaling business? Yeah, it's not really that important, but it is something that if you want to scale to a national level and do a lot of networking, kind of like we do, then it's important, right? We did not start Real Estate Investing Made Easy so that we could joint venture with people across the country, although we do. So on average, with all of month over month, and it's starting to increase even more with the people that connect with us on this website, obviously YouTube and stuff, and other websites where this goes out. We've been doing about $25,000 a month over month in active transactions that are exclusively joint ventures, right? And that is whether or not they need help dispoing it or they need help closing it. So if you want that type of lead flow, it's not something that you should focus on right away. Like I said, this wasn't our intention from the very beginning. Our intention from the very beginning was just to share what's working in the real estate investing space so that we can make it as easy as possible for everybody who is looking to invest in real estate or looking to scale their real estate investing businesses. Because we've been doing this for a long time, got a bunch of knowledge swimming around in my head. So what else am I going to do with it but put myself in front of a camera and talk about it? So yeah, it's important to a point, but that is not the focus I would recommend. Other than to say, when it comes to sellers, you need to have some sort of online presence because that's where people go. Most of the time, if you got a question, where do you go? Exactly. You go to Google or you go to dogpile.com or Ask Jeeves. You guys remember those old sites that you search? Whatever it is, you go there, DuckDuckGo, and you'll search online. That's the point. So if somebody is working with your business and you're like, well, yeah, we're Lazarus Property Group. Well, who is that? You're going to go to the internet and search. So have an online presence as it pertains to being able to show you are an established business to sellers, right? But other than that, to scale your business, you can dictate whether or not you'd like to get an online presence on social media or otherwise. Next question. How do you handle objections and negotiations with potential buyers interested in your wholesale deals? That's a really good question. We have an entire dispo process with 3 dedicated people in the dispositions seat. We're about to have 2 because one of them is probably going to be outs. And that's fine because she's awesome and that she can do that if she wants to. But we're looking for somebody else. Oh, by the way, we're looking for somebody else in the dispo seat who's really hungry. So if you're hearing this and you're like, dude, I love dispo, I'm good at dispo, talk to us, message us. But that is to say, we have a team and a process and an SOP. As far as negotiations are concerned, it's a little bit more, you kind of got to be, you don't have to be, but it's helpful if you can separate, if it's you doing it, separate your empathetic acquisitions, talking with sellers' personality, and then transition to the, hey, this is total business, dude, and these are our numbers, and this is the hard line, right, when it comes to disposition. And I'm definitely just kind of glossing over that, but it's negotiations nonetheless. You got to be a salesperson. It's sales on the dispo side. It's sales on the acquisition side. That's what it is. So that's how we handle it with a system. And obviously, that begs a lot of questions. We're coming out with those answers because we already have it, disposition system made easy, along with all of the other things within our curriculum for our mastermind students. But we'll teach here as well, all right, on those things. So we can dedicate a specific time to talk all about that because it is a massive topic. Thank you for that question. All right. Now, can you share any lessons learned from the past mistakes or challenges in your wholesaling career? Well, let me just rephrase that question because I know we're talking about wholesaling, but I'm not a wholesaler. I'm a real estate investor and I'm going to wholesale properties if it makes sense. I'm going to rehab properties if it makes sense. We're going to do note investing or any other creative strategy if it makes sense. We're investing in real estate. It's just investing. And the vehicle is property as opposed to a stock, a bond, or any of that other stuff. Okay. So as far as in my real estate investing career, sharing lessons from my past mistakes or challenges, I think the answer to that question is everything that I'm teaching right now. But to be more specific, other than like, hey, it's everything we share on this channel because we always are open about the mistakes we've made before so that you'll avoid them. One in particular I think that sticks out is I was a little bit too eager to get into a deal that was listed on the MLS, and I took the word of somebody else rather than my own word. I am not going to sit here and throw shade at realtors, but I will tell you that there's a different world with which, or a lens through which they're analyzing opportunities, right? Rather than a real estate investor. So you got to be really, really keen on what your numbers are, as we've talked about analysis and how to analyze properties based off the comps. You're looking for an ARV comp to make a decision, or multiple comps, obviously, to purchase that property. Realtors are just looking for as is current market, what's it going to sell for, cost per square footage blanket, right? And of course, some of them, there's a little bit more to consider, but it is a different world. So that would be the one I think more beneficial example is that I bought a property, I bought it too high. I also didn't pay attention to, the plat map, and we had to get a survey, and the site survey, it took 3 months, and we were trying to flip this property. So, I mean, it was just a disaster. I lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So yeah, don't do that. Be really, really keen on what you do in your analysis. Okay. So that would be it. How do you determine the appropriate timeline for closing a wholesale deal? Well, the seller is going to dictate that. It's whenever the seller needs to get out of the property or sell the property. There's really nothing else to be said about that, right? If they don't want to close in a week, then why try to close in a week? Doesn't matter. If they want to close in 3 months, why close in 3 months? But I will say this kind of leads into a different question that you didn't ask, which is really important piece of information that I wish I would have known, talking about past mistakes. Well, sometimes what you don't know is what can hurt you. And that's this. You will lose out on leads if you do not practice this regularly, okay? If somebody says, I'm looking to sell, in about 3 months, but I'm not ready right now, don't just follow up with them in 3 months. Not only don't just follow up in 3 months, when you do follow up with them, cut it in half. That, a month and a half to follow up with them. But don't let them get off the phone without saying, hey, is there any reason why you wouldn't be entertaining a longer escrow period, especially in a season right now, like outside of this role play here, right now, the market's softening everywhere. So back into this little role play, right? Especially Mr. or Mrs. Seller, in a scenario where we're seeing the market soften nationally and prices are just going down. Like if we come to an agreement on a price, even if you need a 3-month escrow, like a 3-month close, that's something that I'd be willing to do if it makes sense for you. And then share more information about it. What does that look like? Oh, you mean so we can agree to a price right now and get it locked up? You better believe it, right? Don't let that lead slip away, because the reality is, even if you do renegotiate in 3 months, another investor or even yourself, you're going to look at how the market softened and then say, yeah, this price is going to be a lot lower, especially because, take, for example, Florida. The entire state of Florida, for the most part, we've had 10% reductions in, properties that have just been sitting on the market for a while. And, from local area to local area, that changes, right? Some are 60 days, some are whatever days. But all that said, 10% basically across the board, listing prices have been slashed, right? And that's happening not just in Florida, but I'm saying that's statewide for the most part, as opposed to from city to city to city across the states. The same thing is happening. So if somebody's waiting to sell their property right now, what do you think is going to happen in 3 months? Are they going to get more for their property or less for their property? You want to say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, you're going to get less for your property later. We can negotiate terms and a price right now, right? You could even own the property and do some sort of rent back situation, and you can start cash flowing that property. And then once they move out, you still own the property, and they've been the one who's still paying ostensibly the mortgage. So your holding costs are eliminated. Well, not eliminated, but less, right? Because it's rent back and you're getting the money, right? But you still own it. And that's the point. You want to be able to get that property under contract. If it's a lead, it's a lead, and you make money when you buy. So do your analysis correctly. What criteria do you use to assess the potential profitability of a wholesale deal before pushing it further? It's really the criteria that we've mentioned before, and that is we want to do a quick cost analysis of repairs off a cost per square foot, and whether it's going to be super easy, or easy, medium, hard, or if there's new construction, scrape and build. We always got to budget somewhere around $30K for a scrape, because if an existing structure is there, that's a lot of demo cost, that's a lot of dumpsters, and I'm saying $30K minimum, because it could cost you $1,000 to have a dumpster sitting there just for, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or whatever. Like, can get expensive. So we'll just do those bulk calculations, and they don't include what that bulk calculation doesn't include, which I'll give you the numbers here in a second, is the roof if there's significant damage, the foundation if there's significant damage. This is just the numbers I'll share with you here in a sec are just for like your normal renovations, right? If it's a really, really high-end property and it's going to be hard, your costs are going to be more because the finishes are going to be higher. If it's just a normal middle-of-the-road property as far as the market is concerned, the medium home values, then it's just going to be your standard stuff. Maybe it's Frigidaire. Maybe it's General Electric, like a GE fridge. That is all included in this calculation. And it's this. Anywhere from $35 to $40 a square foot is kind of the easy, 41. And I said something different before, by the way. And that's why, like, if you look back 2 weeks ago, I said 35 to 45 and then 46. The point is it's different from market to market. Your hard costs are going to be the same for materials, building materials, but the level of finish, it depends, right, on the actual market itself, your comps, but these are the rough numbers. So I interrupted myself. I'll get back to it. Anywhere from 30, 35 to maybe 40 is easy. 41 to 47 would be kind of the median. And then 48 to 50 or 55 is kind of your hard. This is wow, this is going to take a lot of work to bring back up to code because it's falling apart. We need to replace all of the drywall. We need to rip and replace most of the studs in all of the walls because there's a lot of wood rot on the external and the internal. So that's how you'd gauge it. And then, of course, if it's a scrape and build, remember, budget for actual demo of the existing structure, and that could be like 30,000, right? And then the scrape and build, it all depends on your area, what the costs for new construction are, especially not just with what you negotiate as a good deal between you and a contractor, but again, keeping in mind those fixed hard costs. The cost of concrete has gone up drastically over the last 3 years. I don't know if you guys know this, been in the industry, but OSB is skyrocketed, and then it's gone down, and then it started to go back up. So your costs are going to change, and those quick calculations, like criteria to assess the potential profitability of a wholesale deal. The first thing I'm looking at is the condition of the property. And again, that goes back to what I said. We make offers based off of two factors to the seller, right? And that is true even if it's outside of seller context, but that's the current condition of the market and the current condition of the property. And frankly, the current condition of the market will dictate the prices that it's going to, cost us to bring the current condition of the property up to an after repair value. So all that said, those are the things to look out for. And of course, we use our quick calculation. I don't remember the website name. I'll put it in the link in the description below, but we do give away our deal analyzer. We didn't even originally invent it or create it. We just kind of customized it a little bit. And it's got what we're using with a repair estimator and with an offer calculator calculator. It's completely free, so you can check it out. I'll put it in the link in the description after this live. Okay. So we got a couple more questions here. We're actually rounding the turn from the 50 questions. What criteria do you use to assess potential profitability? I read that one. Can you discuss the importance of building strong relationships with real estate agents and other industry professionals? Yes, I can. And hey, I could do it pretty succinctly too. It's paramount. Nobody in this business is an island, whether or not you're doing this by yourself without a real estate partner or a partner in your real estate investing business. So assessing the importance, it's of paramount importance, right? Unless you are going to be a one-stop shop and, study for the next 10 years or 5 years, or if you're a genius, 3 months to figure out how to be, a mortgage loan originator, for the retail resell, and how to be a real estate agent so that you can show their properties, and how to be, and I'm working back, listing off the professionals that you want to build relationships with from the perspective of, if you're doing this yourself, it's not going to work. You need to build relationships with these people, right? The escrow companies, the title companies, the real estate attorneys, and then, you're even when it comes to wholesaling, you're going to want to have somebody that you could go to give you an opinion of value in some instances, especially when you're doing this virtually, like inspectors, to get abbreviated inspections across the country. You're sitting in your office, 1,000 miles away, but you're buying a property and you can't physically walk the property, and the pictures are only going to tell you so much. Pay for an abbreviated inspection, build a relationship with an inspector in that area, and then get them mobilized to the property. Also, lock boxes for showings for buyers. You're going to mail lock boxes there. Who are you going to mail them to? You got to build relationships with people virtually. And even if it's in your local area, you're going to have to build relationships with real estate agents in particular to benefit their business, benefit the sellers and the buyers that you're working with, because without retail buyers, you don't have a wholesaling business. Even though they're on the last end of the chain, you don't have that. Now, you could argue, yeah, you do if you're selling exclusively to renters. Okay, but still, you need to have relationships with those landlords, and you still need to have relationships with realtors. So it's absolutely paramount. It's the most important thing. This business is all about relationships, which is another reason why, when you asked the question previously about the competitors in your area, regarding them as your biggest asset, not your competition, in so much as you're working against them, work with them. Okay, really good question. How do you manage the financial aspects of a wholesale deal, including accounting and record keeping? You get somebody else to do it. That's just the bottom line. There should be enough money in a deal that you're doing to actually give you the ability to hire somebody who's an accountant. And we have a really good accountant. So good that I don't remember their name, the name of the business, but I'll leave a link in the description, not an affiliate link or anything like that. They're just a person that we really like, and maybe you can benefit from them. So that's probably the shortest answer you're going to get from me on any of these questions. I ain't got nothing to do with that as far as the bookkeeping, record keeping, and accounting. But as far as the other aspects financially of a wholesale deal, you're going to dictate that, because you're going to be assessing it through your due diligence and evaluation. What is the profitability of this deal, right? And as far as that's as far as it goes for me. Other than that, it's, hey, professional accountant, professional bookkeeper, take the ball and run with it, and tell me, how I can avoid having to pay more taxes than I need to, right? And then, of course, a tax attorney. So, can you share any advice on effective networking within the real estate industry as a wholesaler? Well, yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's just taking a genuine interest in other people's businesses. For instance, we have a team of setters for Real Estate Investing Made Easy, where they're, talking to direct Facebook messaging, Instagram messaging, a lot of other real estate investors, right? Why would they be doing that? Well, we have products and services, right? This is not a space for a pitch or anything. This is just to say they're asking them, even when we talk about we have this marketing platform that's crazy with AI, this and that, or we have this mastermind. They don't go there. The first thing you do is you just ask them, hey, what can I add value to in terms of your business? But that's not the first thing you actually ask. That's just the conclusion you draw, because that's what you should be thinking. It's hey, where do you invest? How long have you been investing? What are you seeing that's working in your marketing right now? How are you managing seller leads? All the questions you ask me, from the perspective of taking an interest in who they are personally to see how you can regard them as your biggest asset rather than your competition, that's what you do. A typical scenario in like a RIA or whatever, it's like, they're going to be probably local investors, right? Who would be your competition. Big question is, hey, are you buying properties actively and flipping them? Or are you just wholesaling properties right now actively in this area? And if they say yes to either one of those, doesn't matter. The next questions are kind of be like, oh, cool. So what professionals right now, like, are you really looking to connect with? Or like, what needs do you need met right now in your business to get it to where you want to go? Obviously, that also brings up another question. What are your goals for this year? It's 2024 now. Like, where are you trying to get to? What's holding you back from getting to those goals? Really, I think as being a coach, I've always thought about it from this perspective. I've benefited from investors who I have taken a genuine interest in because I realize, as a perspective of a coach, I have something to benefit them. I have something to benefit you. But guess what? You also have something to benefit me, right? So just leading from value, leading from a position and a foundation of you want to offer value if you can. And don't tell me, oh, I'm brand new, I don't have any value to offer, I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, you do. I got somebody who's a firefighter in our organization right now in our mastermind who he's got this mindset of stick-to-itiveness that's crazy, because he just shared with me what it means to be a firefighter and how you get to that point. He said this joke, and by the way, this is not, I'm going to tell you it, and you're going to laugh, but I'm not saying that I know this is true or not, but he said, what's the difference, or what similarities do firefighters and police officers have? I was like, I don't know. What is that? And he said, they all wanted to be a firefighter. And I'm like, okay, that's funny. Because it's so, from what I've been described, rigorous of a process to become a firefighter. It takes discipline. So my point in all of this is more than discipline. It takes what ingredients it takes to be a good entrepreneur, to be a successful real estate investor. And if accountability is what you need, then you're going to benefit from that person who maybe you yourself are something like a firefighter or paramilitary or ex-military or whatever. Like, the discipline that it takes to do those types of jobs is the same stuff that it takes to be successful in real estate investing. Even a doctor or a nurse. There's a lot of nurses. If you're a nurse, you're like, what do I know about real estate investing? Oh, well, nothing you can't learn really quickly, okay? But you have the it factor that is, you got compassion. You're able to get on an empathetic level with people who are in tough financial situations, or maybe they just want to get rid of their property, or maybe they're going through a probate situation. So all that said, the effective networking is taking your experiences, whether you're new or whether you're seasoned in real estate investing, and sharing them in a way where you're seeking first to benefit the person with whom you're speaking. So there you go. All right, we got 1, 2, 3, 4 more questions, and then we're out because it's noon my time, 11 Pacific. And we are going to hit it after this, but these have been really good questions. If you do have live questions, continue to ask them. And if you do have questions after in the replay, ask them, because they're going to pop up on my sheet here for next week. All right. How do you handle marketing expenses and budgeting for your wholesale business? We just have to track our KPIs and understand what's working at a really high level for our marketing efforts and what's not working. Ditch the things that aren't working, right? And you're never going to know what's working and what's not working, what's bringing you a solid ROI, not just lead generation, right? But we know what leads qualify as, right? Because we talked about that earlier. So when we're handling the marketing expenses and the budgeting for that, it has to be consistent with the ROI. So just so you know, in our business, for every acquisition seat that we have in our office in San Diego, physically, each one of those acquisitions persons, we're investing in, I got the hiccups. We're investing into them every month to the tune of about $12,000. I think. Don't quote me on that. It's somewhere around there. 12 grand. And that includes data. That includes a bunch of other stuff. We also have cold callers, and we're investing in them. But it's because we're tracking the KPIs, and we know that $12,000 investment is going to yield $75,000, right? Or $100,000. So that's what we're doing. As far as percentages, I haven't calculated like what percentage of our output, like, are we getting back? But I mean, obviously, in deal per deal basis, we do, right? That's not, I'm just saying in a greater, like across marketing efforts, I don't know that number off the top of my head. But we're always looking for anywhere from 8.5 to 15% return on any deal. So as far as marketing efforts, the budget there is, it has to be worth it. And you're only going to know that it's worth it if you're tracking your KPIs. So how do you approach potential buyers and sellers with professionalism and credibility in your wholesaling transaction? So sellers, it's really more about being empathetic and understanding their situation and also not taking things personally. If you've ever tried cold calling yourself, you're going to know that after getting cussed out a lot and hung up on, it will affect how you show up to an actual legitimate prospect that turns into a lead. So don't let that affect you. You need to have thick skin. And if you don't, have somebody else do it. And if you don't have thick skin to be able to, even manage somebody who's telling you about, oh, they told me to go F myself and this and that, like, and I heard that 30 times, then consider outsourcing to aicoldcallers.com. So as far as it concerns the potential buyers, you're just making friends, man. Just make friends in your industry. As long as they're people that they're legit and they're actually buying and flipping properties, just make friends with them. And being professional is definitely appropriate. That's an appropriate way to phrase it. But as far as, being too professional, hey, when it's time to relax, go out with them, get a drink, don't drink, doesn't matter. Go out with them, grab dinner, just build relationships with these people, because nobody, as I said before, is an island in this business. And if you are, you're not going to be in business, period. Can you provide guidance on setting realistic expectations for profits and success in real estate wholesaling? Yes. And I think it goes back to the goals, right? If you're making 60 grand in your day job right now, a year, do not expect to make $1 million your first year in real estate. But understand that what is the profitability of deals on average in your market? Leverage your buyers for that if you're brand new. I can tell you in San Diego, it's around $37,000. I can tell you in Florida, it's closer to, and I'm not proud of this, $5,000 to $20,000. But we get those 5Ks, man, and it doesn't but basically pay for some of our marketing. All that said, be realistic, and it depends on the market that you're in. And just to be clear, in Florida, we're doing more buy and holds. So we're not really doing a whole lot of flips. But even with buy and holds, we get paid to buy properties in the creative way in which we do sometimes. So how do you approach buyers and sellers with professionalism and credibility? Credibility doesn't just come from you. It comes from leveraging the people that you're working with and the expertise of your team. If you're brand new in real estate investing and wholesaling or whatever it is, but your escrow company's been doing this for 20 years, and the person you've built a relationship with who's the representative of that, and you're going to them, they've been doing it for a while, you can leverage the expertise of your team with confidence and, most importantly, integrity when you're having conversations with sellers, right? To give them confidence in the transaction. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I understand that you could have some challenges with this because you've never done this process before, but just so you know, I'm leveraging the expertise of my team here. The title company that I work with, man, it's Bob. He's been doing this for 30 years, and he's somebody that really cares about making sure that all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted in this. So, if there is, maybe there's a lien issue, right? This lien issue is going to get taken care of. And you don't even have to worry about that. Or the process of the transaction. We're fully transparent. That's what escrow's for. My escrow person is whatever, Sally. And she's been doing this for 25 years, and she's the best of the best. We've used other escrow companies before, but it's just not, they act with way more integrity, and we really appreciate their transparency and the personalities. They are just really caring. So whatever it is, you're brand new, you're not brand new, because you're not the only one who's investing in real estate, even if you're a solopreneur. You're not, because your team has been doing it longer than you, and your team as an external team, not on your payroll. Can you provide guidance on setting realistic expectations for profits and success in your real estate wholesale deals? I just asked that question. Here's the last one. How do you stay informed about changes in local zoning laws or regulations that may affect your wholesale deals? I think I would refer you back to a previous question that I already answered in this live, and that was relating to staying up to date with local information, market changes and stuff like that, local laws. In the same way, you literally have a regulatory board in your county that discusses these things and literally meets. I don't know if I have it in front of me, but I just got a piece of mail delivered to my house the other day. It was from the County Development Services Planning Unit, and it has the address here. It's right down the street. I could go to the address, and this is what it is. They're telling me that there's a meeting right now to vote on a development, and they don't know that I'm in the real estate investing space, but I get this, and I know exactly where they are. So here's the deal. You might be a renter in an apartment. You might not be getting things like this, but you could certainly look up the County Development Services and where they are. They're the people, like the zoning commission, they're the people who are going to be meeting and talking about changes, right? And then network with them, right? Get in touch with them and continue to speak to them. You want to work with them? You want to know? That's a really good question. What's going on in your area that you're investing? So all that said, guys, I really appreciate your time. I want to make this something that we're really, truly making real estate investing easy. So continue to ask questions, continue to engage, and be a part of what we're doing here. I really appreciate you. Leave your questions below. We'll answer them again in depth. We'll talk to you next week, guys. See ya.